Hello, hello. Okay, here we go. I hate to do that. All right. Okay, here we go. All right. Good evening and welcome to the City of Roswell Mayor and Council meeting for Monday, June 10th, 2024. I'm Mayor Pro Tem William Worthland. Mayor Wilson has an excused absence and will not be with us tonight. First and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge the council members present. Councilmember Sarah Beeson, Councilmember Christine Hall, Councilmember Lee Hills, Councilmember David Johnson, and Councilmember Alan Sells. Also in attendance are City Attorney David Davidson and City Administrator Randy Knighton. I'll now turn it over to City Administrator Randy Knighton to explain how the meeting is run. Mr. Knighton.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Morthland, and good evening, everyone. In accordance with Section Chapter 3.70 of the City Code, the City Council shall hold regular public meetings, and the purpose of City Council meetings are for the public to participate and speak on agenda items which constitute formal decisions by the elected body. These items are listed on the published agenda, which can be accessed via the city website prior to the meeting. This is a public meeting, and some items do require a formal public hearing. An important component of city council meetings are to hear directly from residents on items listed on the agenda. Public comments and questions are essential for mayor and council to incorporate as they contemplate each decision. Residents are at the top of the organizational chart for the city, and therefore it is imperative for the mayor and council to hear from residents in these meetings. If you would like to speak on an agenda item, we ask that you fill out a comment card, which is located in the back of the room to ensure an accurate record of the meeting. We ask, of course, that everyone display the principles of mutual respect and the appropriate demeanor during the course of the meeting this evening, which is and should be reflective of this great community. The Mayor Pro Tem is the presiding officer for the meeting and will ensure the orderly exchange of questions, comments, and discussion leading to decisions by the elected body. We encourage everyone in attendance and the viewing audience to visit the city website for meetings, events, and departmental information. And we also encourage everyone to review and participate in the various activities here in the city of Roswell. And we ask that you visit roswell365.com for a calendar of events. There are a number of events scheduled upcoming in the city, which you'll hear about later, which all promote community physical activity and leisure as we all make Roswell the #1 family community in America. Mayor Pro Tem Morthland.
Thank you, City Administrator Knighton. At this time, I'd like to call Pastor Dave Bonseler, Bridge to Grace Church, to the front for the invocation and moment of silence.
Would you please bow your heads as I pray? Dear wise and loving Father, let us first begin by saying thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself and the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings, for sustenance and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thank you as well for the freedom to embrace you or the freedom to reject you. Thank you for loving us even so, from our boundless and gracious nature. In the scriptures you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace, order, and justice. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times. I'd ask that you would grant them a sense of welfare and true needs of our people. I'd ask that you would grant them a clean thirst for justice and rightness. Grant them confidence in what is good and fitting. Grant them the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement. Grant them personal peace in their lives and joy in their task. And grant them a strong desire to create the beloved community here in Roswell, Georgia. I pray for the agenda set before us this evening. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work around our beautiful city of Roswell. It is in your most blessed name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call United States Marine Corps Corporal Tamara Lucas Stokes to come forward and lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
Right, thank you. Just stay up and we will move on to the next piece, which is the Corporal Lucas Stokes. Have you come up for the Esteemed Veterans of Roswell Award. Proclamation, Office of the Mayor. Corporal Tamara Lucas Stokes, esteemed veteran. Whereas it is with deep respect and profound admiration, the City of Roswell recognizes the exemplary service and unwavering dedication of Corporal Tamara Lucas Stokes to our nation as a proud member of the United States Marine Corps. Whereas Corporal Tamara Lucas Stokes exemplifies the core values of the Marine Corps, embodying the spirit of honor, courage, and commitment throughout her distinguished military career. Whereas in February 1979, Tamara Lucas Stokes made the courageous decision to enlist in the delayed entry program after graduating high school, paving the way for her remarkable journey into the Marine Corps. And whereas Corporal Tamara Lucas Stokes endured the rigors of Marine Corps basic training with fortitude and perseverance while training at the Marine Corps Recruiting Depot, Parris Island, South Carolina, graduating with distinguished honors as a member of the Platoon 17 Series, Bravo Company, 4th Recruit Training Battalion P. And whereas Corporal Tamara Lucas Stokes served with distinction in various roles within the Marine Corps, including as a food service worker, MOS 3371, and later as a substance supply clerk, MOS 3061, stationed at Camp Smedley D. Butler in Okinawa, Japan, where she exhibited exceptional leadership and management skills. And whereas Corporal Tamara Lucas Stokes' exceptional performance and dedication to duty were recognized through promotions to the ranks of Private First Class E2, Lance Corporal E3, and Corporal E4, highlighting her commitment to excellence and service to her country. And whereas Corporal Tamara Lucas Stokes' exemplary service was further honored with accolades including the Navy and Marine Corps Overseas Ribbon for her service in Okinawa, Japan, the Good Conduct Medal, and the Meritorious Service Medal for receiving an accuracy rating of 98% out of 100% during accountability inspections as a substance supply specialist. Whereas Tamara Lucas Stokes, a resident of Roswell, Georgia, for the past 18 years, alongside her husband Brian, has demonstrated a steadfast love for our community and commitment to its well-being. And now, therefore, I, William Orthland, Mayor Pro Tem, on behalf of Kurt M. Wilson, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby name Corporal Tamara Lucas Stokes, an esteemed veteran of Roswell, and call upon all our citizens to recognize her outstanding service to our country and our community, and that there is no higher calling than those who serve in the armed forces. So, a few words.
Yes. First of all, I would like to thank my son, an esteemed veteran of April, Jacob Patry, and of course my son. And but I would like to thank the city council and of course the mayor and you, Mayor, for giving me this. I'm highly. But I also want to say, in light of our family, we did lose a veteran. My husband lost his father. Yeah, was a Korean boy. So I'm honored. The citizenry and the for nominating me again. I appreciate it.
Well deserved.
Yeah, it's hard for women to be recognized, especially women running.
Tough ring.
Thank you for sharing that about your father.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Next on the mayor's report is a list of upcoming events here within the city of Roswell. I'd like to ask Councilmember Lee Hills to make the announcements.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Morthland. As you know, I love to promote Roswell365.com, so please go to that regularly and check it out and see what's coming up in the fabulous city of Roswell. In addition, if you have anything going on in your neighborhood that you'd like to publish to the public, or a nonprofit, or your church, your place of worship, or business that you'd like to promote publicly, please do so by registering for free on Roswell365.com. and upload your information and a graphic, and we will post it in the appropriate places, and you can give some tag words in there so that you can easily be found, whatever it is that you're doing, from a garage sale to a musical event or whatever the occasion may call for. Also want to bring your attention to June 13th celebrations coming up here in the city of Roswell to honor freedom and culture. The city of Roswell hosts a celebration of freedom and culture with cultural exhibits and theatrical events featuring 5 signature events that will engage, educate, and entertain the community. Juneteenth, Our Freedom exhibit at the Roswell Cultural Arts Center features the collective work of AAFTA. The exhibit runs from June 7th, so it's already started, through July 31st. That's free, so you can just pop in. And the next couple of days following the 14th, we have several events going on. Opening reception for Juneteenth, Our Freedom exhibit, is on Friday, this Friday, June 14th, at 6:00 p.m. at the Cultural Arts Center. We also have 2 performances, The Spirit of Harriet Tubman, and that's at the Roswell Cultural Arts Center on Saturday, June 15th, and Sunday, June 16th. It reveals well-known and seldom told stories highlighting the faith and conviction that propelled Tubman to follow her dreams. Another performance at the Roswell Cultural Arts Center, this is Unbossed and Unbowed, the Shirley Chisholm story. This is Saturday, June 15th, and Sunday, June 16th as well. So you can hit one at one point and the other one on the other day, if you would like to check out both of those. This is an immersive narrative of the first African-American woman to seek the U.S. presidency. We also have Exploring Black Experiences in Roswell, Wednesday, June 19th at 1 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. at Smith Plantation. You can discover the history of the enslaved people who lived and worked at Smith Plantation and how their labor built and maintained much of the early town. Then following that, well, I guess amidst that, June the 15th, which is a Saturday at 7 a.m., we have the Possum Trot 10K Race and Fun Run. That's at Chattahoochee Nature Center. Get your running shoes ready and help support programs at Chattahoochee Nature Center, an Atlanta tradition for over 40 years. This is the 46th annual race and is a fun, fast, flat course. I don't know if it's running, fun, that's for you runners down there. But this is along the banks of the Chattahoochee River. You can find out more information about all of those items at roswell365.com. Then some ongoing events. We have Music on the Hill right here, the second Friday of the month. And so the next one is this Friday. Music on the Hill features All the Locals, which is an Atlanta-based group praised for their effortlessly original and creative approach to songwriting. With soulful backbone and rock and roll attitude, the shaky blues breakdown of heartfelt lyrics, these locals, including their unique horn section, vibe the best of Atlanta's real musical image. This is hit songs for all ages. Alive in Roswell is coming up fast. June 20th is the next one. This is the third Thursday of every month from April to October. So we welcome you on Canton Street and around. At 5 o'clock on June 20th, we'll have all sorts of music, food trucks, interactive vendors, participation from the many surrounding boutiques, small businesses, and restaurants. So if you want to dine in or walk around out, it's all available to you and your friends. And then finally, want to remind everybody about Roswell Riverside Sounds. That is every fourth Saturday until September, starting at 7:30 at Riverside Park. And this is Roswell's longest-running free outdoor concert series, highlighting various musical genres and spotlighting original artists. The next Riverside Sounds is on June 22nd with Paul McDonald. His music features poetic storytelling and irresistibly catchy melodies reminiscent of music legends like Rod Stewart and Bob Dylan, evoking echoes of a bygone era. Paul excels as a poet, visual artist, songwriter, dedicated performer, and formidable vocalist. So there's plenty to do in the next couple of weeks. Check out roswell365.com, and we will see you out on the streets or at some of our fabulous events. Back to you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Outstanding. Thank you. Last item on the mayor's report is the second reading of the mayor's 2024 sixth-month budget. City Attorney David Davidson, will you please read the ordinance?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This is an ordinance adopting a budget for fiscal year 2024, 6 months for each fund of the City of Roswell, Georgia, pursuant to Article 6, Chapter 6 of the Charter of the City, beginning July 1st, 2024, and ending December 31st, 2024, appropriating the amount shown in each budget as expenditures, adopting the item of anticipated funding sources, prohibiting expenditures to exceed appropriations, and prohibiting expenditures from exceeding actual funding sources, and amending the Code of Ordinances to effectuate such adoption. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following ordinance. City of Roswell, Georgia hereby adopts an expenditure budget for the fiscal year 2024, 6 months, said budget being described below and shown in Attachment A for each fund of the City of Roswell. General Fund, $60,557,877. Confiscated Assets Fund, $1,920. E911 Fund, $2,030,280. Grants Fund, $8,363,984. Impact Fee Funds, $927,500. Hotel Motel Fund, $678,937. Auto Rental Excise Tax Fund, $157,500. Lita Thompson Fund, $40,243. Special Events Fund, $406,532. Capital Project Fund, $8,261,664. Debt Service Fund, $4,930,962. Water and Sewer Fund, $2,532,635. Stormwater Utility Fund, $2,154,134. The Solid Waste Fund, $7,055,336. Participant Recreation Fund, $4,185,490. Workers' Compensation Fund, $538,470. Group Health Insurance Fund, $6,139,298. Risk Management Fund, $932,009. Fleet Services Fund, $1,303,060. And Information Technology Fund, $3,821,607, for a total of $115,019,438. A millage rate of 4.949 mils is estimated as part of the budget. The millage rate has a component of 4.049 mils for general fund, operating and capital improvements budget, and a component of 0.9 mils for servicing bonded indebtedness. The millage rate shall be adopted by mayor and council at a later date, but prior to issuance of the tax bills for the tax year 2024. This budget fixes the number of budgeted full-time positions at 717. The city administrator or his or her designee is authorized to redistribute funds reserved for contingency included in the fiscal year 2024 six-month budget to the various departments as necessary. Mayor and council adopt a capital improvement programming for fiscal year 2024 6 months as attached hereto and incorporated herein as Exhibit B. This programming does not indicate any promise of appropriations for future years or unfunded projects. Mayor and council further approve reappropriation into fiscal year 2024 6 months of current fiscal year unspent funding in the general fund in order to establish a general fund fuel and utility contingency in an amount not to exceed $250,000. Mayor and council further approve reappropriation into fiscal year 2024 6 month of current fiscal year unspent funding in the general fund in order to establish a general fund grant match contingency in the amount not to exceed $250,000. Mayor and council further approve reappropriation of all approved capital projects, grant revenue, grant funding, as well as contingency funding that is unspent or uncollected and available as of June 30th, 2024. Mayor and council further approve the reappropriation into fiscal year 2024 6 month of current fiscal year unspent funding for city administrator professional services, unspent funding for the employee wellness program, unspent funding for city's educational assistance program, unspent funding for Roswell University, unspent funding for police school zone safety project, unspent funding for legal services, and unspent funding for elections. Mayor and council further approve appropriation into fiscal year 2024 6 month of the audited balance of funding available in the confiscated assets fund. If approved, this would be the second reading of the ordinance.
Nice job. That's a lot. All right. Next up, we have Budget Manager Lynn Williams. Would you please present the item?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. This is the proposed budget for the next 6 months. We have done the proposed presentation on May 13th. We did the first budget reading on May 28th, and this is the second budget reading and adoption today. For the agenda, we'll cover the budget highlights, all fund summary, look at general fund, and some add deletes that have been submitted, and in ordinance highlights, and then there's no next steps. For the 6 month budget highlights, this is a 6 month budget. It will run from July 1st through December 31st. This will set the stage for Roswell transitioning to a calendar fiscal year, starting from January 1st through December 31st of 2025. The proposed budget is balances and prioritizes public investment. Included is the revenues and expenditures that we would expect to see over the next 6 months. There is a lot of elements similar to the 2024 budget in this 6 month budget. The city is continuing to re-envision how we deliver services across the departments and realign within those. Over the last couple of years, we have done best-in-class compensation for police, 911, and for fire. We have implemented the year 1 and year 2 of the full-time fire department transition. We have added 4 police positions that are dedicated to crimes against children. We have also obligated $5 million or budgeted $5 million for the historic parks and gardens activation and maintenance plan. We continue to maintain the grounds for Barrington, Holly Hill, Mimosa, and Smith. We also have capital investment that I'll have up in shortly. These are including facility asset maintenance and investments, transportation and sidewalks, and including water and stormwater improvements. For all funds, on the left, you have a full year, what would typically be a full year. So that was the FY24 approved. On the right, you do see the 6-month. It is roughly about half of what it would have been if we had done a year. I will note that the property tax, if you look from left to right, does look the same, and that's because the billing is done in fall, and I'll show that here in a minute. Almost all of the other ones are roughly at half of a year. For the millage rate history, since FY 2018, we have continually dropped and moved the M&O millage rate down. We have done the rollback rate for the last 2 years. In general fund, this is the revenue that dollar-wise that has come in and what the millage rate looks like for the general fund. This proposed budget includes a current millage rate at this time as an estimate. We do not have the final from Fulton County. We just got the estimate. So we will review that and then come back for the millage rate later in the year. We would expect not to include any increase on the bond referendum side of the millage rate in this year. And the timing of the property tax bills, even though we are changing the fiscal year, the bills will not change. So when you typically see your bill is when you will have your bill again this year. Next, one of the other large revenues we have is sales tax. And so in sales tax, in a full year, you would typically see 31 going to general fund, 31 million, and we have budgeted 15.8 million in general fund sales tax for the 6 month. And this is because this is a monthly revenue that does come in each month, and so we would expect to see half of it. I have given you an outline of what we would expect a full year to look like. On this one, the revenue assumptions, the water fund was approved at 7% last year and an additional 7% this year, and that is already passed. The stormwater and solid waste fund were both an increase of 10% last year, and we are proposing another 10% this year. And that 10% is later on the agenda tonight, so you all speak about that again. The all funds use of funds, this is across all the different funds. This is our roughly half of what an annual would be for all funds. For all funds, the largest 3 departments are the police services, recreation and parks, and environmental public works, including utilities. For the full-time position history, the proposed budget showed 3 increases to full-time employees. That was 1 position for IT, 1 position for facility services, and 1 position for landscaping. I'll readdress that in 1 second. For general fund summary, this is general fund from FY24 approved to the 6 month. If you notice, the property tax went down from 32 million to 29.7, and that is because we did the rollback after it was approved last year. So the similar sales tax and similar business tax, but they're about half of the year. For the use of funds, it is roughly half of what a usual year would be. The top 3 department services within general fund is the police services, fire services, and recreation and parks. This is a summary of general fund as it was initially presented. So the beginning fund balance was shown at 25 million, revenues of 61.8, expenses of 60.55, the fund balance reserve requirement of 25%. That is 26.26, and remaining fund balance of 25,000. We have received some add delete suggestions, and so as long as we include those as part of the motion, then those would be included in the budget. So this would add 15 firefighters for half of year 3. That is the year 3 implementation plan had 30, we're gonna do 15. So we're gonna reduce contingency to do that. And then there are 3 capital that we are looking to delay in the add delete list that had been submitted to budget. The general fund operating, the compensation adjustment listed there at the top for all funds is listed at 1.1 million. The impact to general fund is 786,000 roughly. And then the 3 positions I just mentioned on the position tab, as long as we pass the add delete list as well as the original motion, we will add those 15 firefighters as well. And then this is the capital that we are saying for property acquisition, customer service remodel, facility condition assessments of 1.5, and then you can see the reductions that we made on the add delete list. After the add delete list, we still have a fund balance of 25. The revenues are still 61.8, but the expenditures would be 60.3495. The reserve balance would go up to 26.33. And it would leave us with a remaining balance of 117.9 thousand. The budget ordinance itself, this is going to set the fiscal year as 6-month budget. It sets the allocation by fund and department. It authorizes the number of full-time positions and establishes contingencies. We do also reappropriate from one fiscal year into the next for things like capital that are in progress, grant, contingency funding, capital assets, confiscated assets, city administrative professional services, employee wellness and university program, school zone safety program, and legal services and municipal elections. We do have the proposed budget available on the website, and hard copy is always available in finance. And next step would be start of the 6-month budget.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. That was almost as easy as reading the entire ordinance. That's very good. Thank you for that presentation. Does council have any questions or comments about the budget? Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Beeson.
So for clarity, you said on the additions and deletions, that would need to be motioned in during this reading in order for it to be captured and included moving forward for this fiscal year budget, correct? Okay, and then in the past, so I guess there was a misunderstanding, at least on my end, when we motioned it forward on the last meeting, I was totally under the understanding, and I believe some of the others might be as well, that those additions and deletions were actually included in that reading. So for this time around, I assume will Councilmember Hall be making the motion? Excellent.
It was not included last time. So
Okay.
we'll catch it this time.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? One more. Back to you.
With the understanding that when we do motion for the additions and the deletions, that then will automatically revise the total operational budget as well as the total head count, correct? We don't need to do that within the motion as well. Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay. Take it to the public. Any questions or comments from the public? All right. Coming back to council. Any last questions or comments from council? Very good. Councilmember Hills.
Hall.
My gracious. It's,
You've got the Curtis.
It's the chair. It's the chair. Councilmember Hall, would you like to take over?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Morthland, and thank you, Lynn. I'm glad that you're feeling better this week. A couple weeks ago, we were a little bit concerned up here. But you did a terrific job, and thank you for all your hard work, and the entire finance team, Georgette and her team, for pulling this together. It's a lot of work to transition from a fiscal year to the calendar year, but it's something that we've been wanting to do for actually, I mean, since I've been here almost 5 years. So glad we're finally getting there. And as you explained, folks will get their tax bills at the exact same time as that they always do. And I know you've already started working on the calendar year budget, or you've got your eyes on that. Also, I just wanted to let the public know that the auditors have just, I think, concluded the audit of this fiscal year, and that information will be available to the public in the coming weeks. So thank you for all your work. I'm ready to make the motion, and the motion is to approve the second reading of the fiscal year 2024 six-month budget for the city of Roswell, Georgia, with the add-delete list in the amount of in the amount of $114,695,438.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Johnson. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. All right. Next on the agenda is the recognition of the City of Roswell Water Utility receiving the Georgia Association of Water Professionals Water Treatment Plant of the Year, presented by Director Brian Watson. Here you are.
Thank you, Mayor Pro
All right.
Tem.
Take it.
Good evening, council. This is, at least for Environmental Public Works, and I hope for you all, a very, very exciting night. We get to recognize our water utility for the third straight year of becoming the plant, or the water treatment plant of the year. It just, you know, I've been a water professional for over 25 years, and I cannot tell you what an incredible group of water professionals that we have, especially what's, you know, led by Chris Boyd, who you all know very, very well. And I just, this is special. Thank you for giving us a little bit of time. I am going to turn it over to Chris we've got a small couple things to tell you all. So, Chris?
Well, I'm going to start off by just introducing Eric Osborne. He is the current chair of the Georgia section of the American Water Works Association. He's here to present the award for Water Plant of the Year for 2024 for system size 0 to 4.99 million gallons per day. This is our fourth time winning the award and our third time in a row. Eric?
They've done what no NFL team can do, and they've three-peated. So, yeah, like Chris said, I'm the current chair, and Chris is the distinguished vice chair, which next month he'll take over as chair for the Georgia section, so that's an accomplishment too. He's well recognized as a good water professional in the state of Georgia. The award is important because we all go through state and federal inspections, and they happen every 3 years. It's called a sanitary survey. But this is an inspection that they can go through that's over 20 pages long by their peers. So other water professionals come and go through this as a voluntary program, so you're being recognized as the best among your peers when they win this award. And winning it 3 years in a row is very, very prestigious. So with that, I would just like to tell Chris and the rest of the water treatment professionals, congratulations, and hopefully you'll win it again next year.
That's right. Thank you. So I do have Alex Warfel here. He's a Class 2 operator. He's been with the City of Roswell since 2012, and he's been working at the water plant since 2015. He was actually here when we decommissioned the old water plant and brought the new plant online in 2016. So I know that Jesse Cash, our plant operations manager, wanted to be here today to accept this award, but of course he had a family vacation scheduled, so he's doing that, and he spent time with family. And then Andy Hamby was also planning to be here tonight, but his wife had surgery today, so he's at home taking care of her, as he should be. So I'm going to ask Alex, do you have anything you'd like to say? No? You want me to continue? Okay, I'll continue. So this is an award that we don't have to go after every year. It's not mandated by the state that we go and try and get this award. I really go after this award for two reasons. One, to let the public know what a great job that our water professionals are doing to ensure that we have high-quality potable drinking water, leaving that plant, making it into the system so that you have water at your tap when you want it, and fire has water at the hydrants whenever they need to fight a fire. We are responsible for public health and safety. There's a lot of science involved with treating water, chemistry, biology. You have to go out and get licenses, and we're always dealing with regulations from federal, state, and local that we all have to stay on top of and comply with. And it's ever moving, ever changing, and we have always been able to meet or exceed all regulatory compliances that have been put on us. And we are still striving to meet that goal each and every year as new regulations come down the pipeline. That being said, I want to recognize some of the other operators at our plant that are responsible for this award. Steve McKinney, Ian St. James, Travis Larson, and Maya Goolsby. We have 7 people that operate at that plant. We have approximately 9 people in our distribution staff that maintain the distribution system. I also want to point out that I actually had 2 distribution operators working with Jesse and Andy through a cross-training program that achieved getting their Class 3 water operator's license. So this is helping us with shift redundancy. So if an operator at the plant needs to take off, sick, medical emergency, whatever, we've got someone on distribution that can step right in and run that plant without any problems. So that is a big milestone that I am really excited that we were able to achieve. It's something we've been working on for the past couple of years, and those 2 just got their licenses back in March of this year. So very excited about that. And with that, Brian, would you like to say any more words, or are you good?
I just want to take a picture and make sure that this is preserved.
All right, very good. Picture, here we go.
Thanks.
You're all good? Yeah, okay. I'll take a couple. Good, thank you very much.
Okay, next is the consent agenda. Does council have any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? All right. Going to the public. Would the public like to have question or comment about the consent agenda? All right, coming back to council last time. Questions, comments about the consent agenda? Okay, Councilmember Hills.
Thank you so much. I just want to say that this is a great addition to something that 3 of us up here put in motion July 25th of 2022 when we put a rush job on putting in solar street lights along Scott Road between Eves Road and Old Scott. And that was 35 solar lights. So this is terrific that we continue to build on a needed area for light and improvement on mobility, certainly around Centennial High School. So I just want to say, way to go, team.
Fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments or questions about the consent agenda? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilmember Johnson. Do I have a second? Councilmember Hills has the second. All right. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please raise your hands. Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Consent agenda. All right, next up is the regular agenda with the Finance Department. Councilmember Hall, would you please read the first item under the Finance Department?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Morthland. Yes, item number 1, approval of a resolution adjusting stormwater utility rates and sanitation rates. And this will be presented by Lynn Williams, our budget manager. Welcome back, Lynn.
All right, here we go.
Very much. Felt so accomplished. I didn't know if we needed to do it. No.
Very good, very good.
What we have here is the fee resolution that supports the fees that were listed in the budget. So, talk about stormwater and solid waste fees. So, in the 6-month budget, we included several assumptions related to revenue adjustments that was presented on May 13th. This is the approval needed to adjust those rates on solid waste and stormwater. So in stormwater fees, this would be implemented as of July 1st, 2024, and it would be a 10% increase. And for most customers, it would be from 5.45, most residential, it would be from 5.45 to $5.99 a month. This would support the capital improvements that we have related to stormwater. Stormwater has some larger capital investments that are important for the quality of life for our citizens. And so these would help us pay for those capital improvements. In solid waste, we have a fee adjustment of 10% as well. This would be, for example, for residential, it would be an increase of $2.70 a month at the 10%. These fees do support the regular trash pickup, premium pickup. It is also commercial and the contracted out service that we have for residential curbside recycling collections and yard waste. And there's also some fees associated with the recycling center. I'm recommending approval of the fee resolution.
Okay. Does council have any questions or comments about the item? All right. Does the public have any comments or questions about the item at hand? All right. Bringing it back to council last time. Questions, comments? All right. Councilmember Hall, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Morthland. Motion to approve item number 1, the resolution adjusting stormwater utility rates and sanitation rates as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Hills. There you go. All right. All those in favor? Here we go. Passes unanimous. Thank you. Next, we're going to move to the community development, and this is going to be presented by Councilmember Hall. Yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate that. So, community development, Councilmember Hall, would you like to read the first item?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Morthland. Item number 2, CU 2023-0197/CV 2023-0195, 400 Vickery Falls Drive, Mill Creek Place. The applicant is requesting a deferral to the July 8th, 2024 Mayor and Council meeting.
Okay, we've got a deferral requested. Comments, questions from council for this deferral request? No? All right. Do we have a motion? Well,
I'm happy to make a motion, but after we go
comments
to
from
public.
council, comments from the community, questions, comments from the community about the deferral? Bringing it back to council. Councilmember Hall.
Motion to approve the deferral for item number 2. And Attorney Davidson, do I need to read the entire item again?
No, but you might want to just give the date.
Motion to approve the deferral until July 8th, 2024, mayor and council meeting for item number 2.
Fantastic. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Johnson. All those in favor? All right, passes unanimous. Thank you. Next up is Councilmember Hall. Would you please read the second item under community development?
Item number 3, 2024-0809, 1200 Old Alabama Road, revision to the approved site plan, and this will be presented by Jackie Dybel, our Deputy Director of Community Development.
Excellent. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is located at 1200 Old Alabama Road, a revision to the existing approved site plan. Here's an aerial view of the location. As you can see, the townhomes on the east are Riverwalk Phase 1. This is Riverwalk Phase 2. The applicant is Toll Brothers. They submitted a revision to an approved 2018 site plan. The 2018 plan included 51 townhomes, 64 condos, and 8,000 square feet of commercial. The new revised 2024 plan proposes 89 townhomes. The property is zoned CX, commercial mixed use. There's the zoning of the property. As you can see, 1200 Old Alabama Road. It is zoned CX. South of it, where the current Riverwalk townhomes is RTH. To the north of it are the apartments that are zoned RM3. And then you have the PRD, planned residential development of Martin's Landing, to the east of the existing townhomes. And the gray color up there is the civic zoning. This is the 2018 approved plan. There were condos, commercial along the front area just past the roundabout section, and the rest of it was remaining as townhomes with a 2,000 or 1,000 square foot little bike shop, ice cream shop, whatever you want to call it, down at the end, where you can see the parking in the rear that went down towards the river. This is the 2024 revised site plan proposing the 89 townhomes. All townhomes are rear loaded. They all meet the requirements of the current code. They do have amenity space located kind of in the middle. I would put a little arrow on here. This thing's not working, but you can't see it anyway, but the people out here can see it where the amenity area is shown. They're showing stormwater here. They do have some retaining walls on the plan. Per the staff report, we had some retaining walls located over at this area. We had a retaining wall located over in this area. I wanted to make sure I brought that to your attention, and it was listed in the staff report since some of them were more than 6 feet in height. So staff has revised the conditions that are currently in your staff report. What we've done basically is indicated that we took the conditions from 2018 and deleted the ones that are going to be deleted, changed them up, and made some changes to the other ones. So the conditions for the proposed revision to the site plan is, number 1, to develop the property in substantial accordance with the site plan received in May of 2024. The number of lots units are not guaranteed, as reduction may be required due to staff comments during development. Number 2, 3, 4, and 5, 2, 3, and 4 stay the same. The owner developer shall provide appropriate sidewalk crossings at the roundabout, similar to the opposite side of the roundabout. The owner developer shall accommodate potential interparcel connectivity, extend the pavement stub, provide adequate end of street marker, and sign informing the potential future street extension to future patrons and residents. Number 4, all clearing and impervious allocations for the area within the ARC must be included on all land development permits. Number 5, when submitting for building permits, each townhouse, the impervious and clearing allocations shall be shown on each survey and building permit. So we've stricken the condominium building from number 5. So for each townhouse residential unit, the impervious and clearing allocations shall be shown on each survey and building permit. Number 6, a preliminary plat shall be completed for the tract prior to submitting for the LDP, and the preliminary plat must contain all clearing and impervious allocations for each lot. Number 7, a final plat must be completed and recorded prior to the issuance of the building permits, and the final plat must also contain all the clearing and impervious allocations for each lot. Number 8, prior to the final certificate of occupancy, an as-built survey of the development on this tract must be provided to the city once the final townhouse units, and we'll be striking condominium building is completed. So strike that out of number 8. The survey must show all clearing and impervious allocations that have been used and what clearing and impervious allocations are remaining. Number 9 is being stricken. The is related to the 8,000 square feet of commercial, since there is no commercial in this portion. Number 10, the stack flat. So what it might do is, it's not showing up as well on here with the cross out. Probably put on here, it'd be better. So there you go, number 9 is stricken. Number 10 shows the stack flat townhouse units shall be for sale housing and shall not be offered for rent by the developer. Once turned over to the HOA by covenant restrictions, no more than 10% of the units may be rented by the owners. Number 11 is related to lighting. Number 12 states that the proposed townhomes shall employ quality standards of design, construction features, finishes, and landscaping equal to or greater than those standards currently implemented in the current townhome project that was opposite the side on Old Alabama Road that abuts Martin's Landing. And it states, as it's recognized that Roswell DRB will implement the above conditions. And number 13, you'll indicate to accommodate the roundabout crosswalks between Riverwalk townhomes, and the new development shall employ installed LED warning strips such as the Light Guard in-ground automatic crosswalk warning light system or similar system per the Roswell DOT. The objectives for the highest degree of safe pedestrian crossing and safety warnings to all vehicles traveling on Old Alabama Road in this location, as well as increased connectivity to the surrounding river. Number 14. Well, 14 was, we did look at that. 14 and number 10 are very similar. They were redundant, so it looks as if we might be removing 14. If you choose to keep it, you just need to remove the words condominium. And then number 15 is out of date. So 15 was related to the parcel to the north, and that was for up to 5 years. So the 5 years ended last fall. And then we do have a new condition, number 6. A right-of-way miter will be required in accordance with the City of Roswell, section 2.1.3.2, right-of-way radius, as required by the Roswell Transportation Department. Steve Angela passed out a set of these for all of the mayor and council members. I'm going to leave this set here so that it can be discussed at length with all the public and the applicant when they make their presentations. Do you have any, and one other thing I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of, this is a different developer builder than from 2018. So Toll Brothers was not involved in the 2018 project. I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. It is a different developer builder. Do you have any questions for staff?
Councilmember Beeson.
This might be a question for staff, or this question might be better suited for the developer. Is the applicant present this evening?
Yes.
My question is, so with the original plan of being 51 townhomes, 64 condos, and 8,000 square feet of commercial, while I realize that it's a new developer, do we have provided justification for why they decided to move away from those plans and move solely to residential, especially given the commercial mixed-use designation and zoning?
I believe that would be best answered by the applicant, since this was presented as all townhomes.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from council?
Sorry, are we going to have the developer provide a response on that, or no?
We will.
Yes, the developer
Excellent.
will be providing.
Perfect. Thank you.
that.
Okay. All right. The builder developer is in attendance. I'd like to invite them up. Welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, I'm Don Rollator. My address is 200 Foothills Parkway, Marble Hill, Georgia. I'm here tonight on behalf of Toll Brothers. And with us tonight, we have Jake Meek with Toll Brothers. We have Eric White in charge of, he's the boss. And we have J.R. Crow, who is the land man. So I trust that we can answer all your questions. Ms. Beeson, I will address yours early on in the presentation. The property is 21.3 acres on the west side of Old Alabama Road Extension. You can see the surrounding uses. Jackie explained them well. We have apartments to one side, to the top. We have Georgia 400 on one side. Then we have the extension on the east side. And then we have the existing townhouse development across the road there. So that's where we are in the world. The Old Alabama Road Extension was built in the 1980s as a result of a rezoning during the Pug Mabry era. And one of the members of Martin's Landing asked me to share a wee bit of history with all of you because none of you were here except maybe Mr. Davidson when this transpired. In the 1980s, that whole valley down through there was vacant. A developer in North Atlanta asked for permission, and they built the shopping center up at the intersection of Old Alabama, and that was for a long time the Home Depot before it moved. The remaining property falling down the hillside was designed for office development. To give you an interesting story, Pug Mabry came to my office one day when I was in Roswell. He said, "Don, can we talk about this a minute?" And I said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. What can I do for you?" And he said, "I want this development. You've got to make me a promise." I said, "What's the promise, Mr. Mayor?" "You'd have to know Pug Mabry." He said, "I want you to build a road from right there at Holcomb Bridge all the way down to the river. I want you to build a damn big road." And so they redrew the application. They built that major thoroughfare that goes down to the river now. And at the time, the city was very interested in office development. And it was zoned for 7 6-story office buildings descending down that hill. Those office buildings had huge floor plates of parking, a sea of parking we call it now, that office seems to have gone out of favor, and those were all approved. And nothing ever happened. It just didn't occur. So as we come into current times and places, we're beginning to see the property go to real use. The Swift School bought a tract in there. Didn't change their mind, but a private owner has bought that site. The townhomes have gone in across the road and have been very successful in selling. And the nature of that area has become residential. And so we come to Toll Brothers coming in with this application. This application is for a site plan revision and for conditional use for townhomes. The reason for that request, when it was zoned in 2018, townhomes were permitted as a matter of right. Subsequently, the city council changed the requirements, and it said townhomes will be a conditional use. So we ask you to continue allowing that conditional use, and you changed some requirements, including making sure that there were no more than 4 units to a building, which is in compliance here, and making sure that they were all rear entry, so you didn't see unsightly garages from the street. So this site plan modification shows all of those changes. The question that Ms. Beeson had, the original had condominiums and it had a very small commercial piece. At the time, that was the thinking, miniature mixed use. That didn't come to fruition, but I want to cover the condominiums first. Condominiums in a suburban environment have not been very successful. They, for us, would represent a much lower price point, and they're very difficult to finance. It seems that lenders tend to want to run from condominium development, which is stacked flats. Every floor has an owner all the way up, or 2 or 3 owners on each floor. It just hasn't done as well. Townhomes have been accepted tremendously all over North Georgia, North Fulton County, North Metro Atlanta, and one of the finest builders of those is Toll Brothers. They know what they're doing. the commercial piece. With COVID, we saw a tremendous change in the retail atmosphere. Sticks and bricks retail in general is in trouble. North Point Mall is virtually empty. There are other malls in the area, Gwinnett Mall, that are virtually empty. We've discovered that retail wants to go where other retail is and where there's an outbreaks of restaurants and street traffic and activity that makes them survive. At 8,000 square feet, what we found in here is that the uses we could attract, and you have to get renters to pay for it, are not very pretty. It's likely we would have a hair salon. It's likely we'd have a nail salon. It's likely we'd have a dry cleaning pickup station. And it's likely we'd have a vape shop. And that's the marketplace for miniature retail. So the reasons that Toll Brothers wants to develop this is it's an excellent market for premier townhome development. Jackie, can we go to the overhead, make it shine? I'll give you just a rough concept of what's contemplated in this area. This is the type of work that Toll Brothers does, and this is the initial concept plan for what they propose to build in this area. You'll notice they're all rear entry. They're no more than 4 connected. It meets all those requirements. So that's the reasoning for why there's 1 use now instead of 3. This development requires 200 parking spaces. We have 228, so we shouldn't have issues with visitor parking. The open space contained in this site is 61% of the entire site, which is attractive. We're not jamming it onto a very small piece of property. The amenities will include a pool and a cabana, which I think is attractive. And I will reconfirm what Jackie showed you in condition number 10, and that is that no more than 10% of the units would be allowed to be rented if it's that high. Our experience in the market is that we get homeowners when we sell these. They're very high-end units. That pretty much describes what we're looking to do. I covered the amenities. I covered the 10%. I've covered the fact that it complies with the updated townhome ordinance. The other part I would stress to you is that Toll Brothers is not in the speculation business, they're in the building business. And what we're talking about building is as soon as this can go through the design review board process and reach approval and the proper permits can be issued, they're ready to go to work. We're not talking a year or 2 years out in the future. We're talking now. And I know the city is very interested in having something happen now. This is a good development, and it's now. Please let all of us answer any questions that you have about this. We're happy to.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Mr. Rollator. Coming back to council, does council have any questions or comments for the presentation? All right. Bringing it to the public, does the public have any questions or comments for the presenter? All right, coming back to council. Last time for questions and comments. All right. Okay. Councilmember Hall, do you have a motion?
I just had a comment before motion.
Excuse me. So sorry.
Just thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you for the hard work that you've done to really make this a better project than what it was. This was a very, very controversial zoning in 2018. I sat in the audience, and it was unfortunate in that the mixed use was intended to be in this area. However, we did not have the mixed use rules in place that we have now, where if it's a CX zoning, it needs to be primarily commercial. And that's how we ended up in this situation with a tiny portion of 8,000 being commercial, which really is not viable. As anybody in the business, I had a retail business, and as anybody knows. So thank you for making this a better project, a less dense project. And with that, I'm ready to make a motion.
All right, Councilmember Hall, do you have a motion for us?
Motion to approve item number 3, 2024-0809, 1200 Old Alabama Road, revision to the approved site plan as presented with the staff changes to, with the recommended conditions to the original,
With the revised conditions?
with the revised conditions.
Okay, that get us covered? Okay. Do we have a second? All right, second by Councilmember Sells. All those in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, Councilmember Hall, would you please read the last item under community development?
Yes, sir. Item number 4, 2023-5005 and 2024-1822, 1293 Manhattan Drive, revisions to the approved site plan. And will this be heard tonight, presented by?
There was a discussion about potentially deferring this for 2 weeks. Is everybody on board with that? Yes, ma'am. Question by Councilmember Beeson.
Was the request for deferral made by the applicant or by the city?
By the city.
What are the grounds for the deferral?
Would you like to take this?
The grounds, there's discussion to defer this item because there were some questions regarding comments from fire, transportation, and community development that we probably didn't have time to address before this. Well, we don't have the answers to
Understood.
prior to this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council?
So
Okay,
with the intent being to defer, I don't know if you want to take it to the public to see if they have any comments.
We will. All right, applicant is here. So the purpose behind the deferral is per Councilmember Hall's statement. There were a lot of questions related to transportation, fire, and others that were still percolating right before we got in tonight. And it would be our request, my request, that we get another 2 weeks on this to make sure that we get it all buttoned up with correct answers to those questions that were posed and still in the air. That's my request for the request for deferral. Does anybody have anything to add to this? Would the applicant like to speak? We will in the 2 weeks. Yes, ma'am.
Just a point of frustration on my end, not reflective of council and mayor, not even reflective of staff. This will be the second time in a row that we've had a request for deferral on city side, not on applicant side. I'm very sympathetic to when we have an applicant that needs to defer because we set the calendar, but because we set the calendar, I would like to recommend to the city, all departments, making sure that we have our ducks in a row before we head into a council meeting and we force people to defer, because this time is money inherently. So I will be understanding this time, but moving forward, I'm hoping that we can hopefully be a little more organized.
Understood. Thank you. Okay. Let's open it up to the public for this question. Would you please address the council from the podium? Yes. So on the record, name, address.
My name is Sherry Ashworth, and I live at 1301 Manhattan Drive, across the street from the development. And just want to make sure when we come back for this, that will we know it's on the docket for sure? Is there a way to know that it's not going to be on the docket?
It will be on the posting when we post the council meeting agenda leading up to the next meeting. It will be on there if it's ready. Yes, it'll be on there. Okay. And I fully anticipate it to be there, yes.
That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I can just add, how do we establish if there will be a deferral at that meeting prior to sitting here for an hour to find out that there's a deferral?
So name and address, I'm sorry?
Sorry?
Name and address.
Rick Goffin, 1301 Manhattan.
Good. Okay, question one more time, I'm sorry.
How do we confirm that the pending meeting for 2 weeks will succeed with the revision discussion, or will it be deferred? How do we establish if there's a potential for it to be deferred?
Sure.
So that we don't sit here for an hour to find out that it's going to be deferred at the moment.
So with your contact information, I'll make sure that we get that information to you before,
Okay,
just to
thank
make
you.
sure you're all
Where do I leave that?
with Ms. Tybel. Any other questions from the public? Yes, sir.
Thank you for allowing me to address council now, because I think some of my suggestions may be pertinent to the ongoing discussion. My name is Chris Kieser. My address is 1236 Minnehet Drive. We are in the house to the south of the property, or the rear, as it's seen. And the two amendments, both the direction of the townhouses facing backwards, as well as then the proposed changes to the landscaping buffer, directly impact our property as well as a number of neighbors' property, privacy, and the feel of nature that neighborhood's really known for. So as we look at this, I'm very supportive of the council's recent changes to the landscaping provisions. I think y'all are making Roswell a really livable, wonderful community. I wouldn't expect a lot of variances, so to have 2 variances, in an evening is certainly interesting. And picked up on the last project, they were able to get their landscaping with townhouses up to 60%, I think is what was said. So for this to encroach on that lower variance seems problematic to me. I am also, though, understanding that good growth is important to the city, but I would like the Department of Development to look at how those views impact the neighbors from the back side as well as the front side. Not just comply with the landscaping ordinance, but maybe even exceed it. The normal tree growth takes about 3 years before a tree will actually start growing. And we'll be impacted immediately upon people occupying those units and looking down on us. So thank you for your time.
Yes, sir, thank you. Any other comments from the public on this item? Okay. Back to, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Neil Waddle. I'm the architect with the development team. Just a couple things to speak to the neighbors. A lot of things have changed since 2016, which we would address in 2 weeks. We'll be back for that, but we're just slightly under the new and updated impervious square footage requirement. And a lot of that was due to the fact that the fire marshal and us, in our discussions with the fire marshal and their team, required a lot more impervious square footage for fire truck turnarounds of those nature. So we're doing our best to meet all of the requirements, but we're also having to update our codes from 8 years ago. Things that we were to do, or that the other developers allowed to do 8 years ago, now we aren't allowed to do. So I just wanted to kind of step in and say we're not just intending to just pave the entire site. We're trying to do our best, but we're also working with codes that have changed, staff changes, fire marshal changes of the like, on top of reducing density overall. But I just wanted to step in. So 2 weeks from now, we'll reconvene, I guess.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions, comments from the public? Coming back to council, last question, comment, such. Okay. Councilmember Hall, do we have a motion for deferral?
Yes, sir. Item number 4, motion to defer to is it the July 8th meeting in 2 weeks?
22nd. June 22nd meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. June 22nd meeting. Motion. June 24th. Thank you. Let's start again. Item number 4, motion to defer the item to the June 24th mayor and council meeting and it's item number 2023-5005 and 2024-1822, 1293 Minhinnet Drive, revision to the approved site plan.
Thank you. Do we have a second on the deferral? Okay, Councilmember Hills. Thank you. All those in favor of the deferral to the, is it the 24th? Can we bring this back? Okay. So, give me just a second here. With the request B from the council to allow this to come back and let them have their statement.
I will take back my motion for the opportunity for the public to come back and make another statement.
Okay, here we go. Open to the public. Ready for when you are. Sorry for the confusion.
And I live at 1236 Minonette Road.
Yes, ma'am.
So we are directly, they back up to us, and we are the whole entire property behind them. So we are the most affected people, and we are in Wyoming in 2 weeks. So that's why we're here today. And like the frustration, right, of the deferral, we should be the people that are there. So I don't if there's any way to move it to another day, we can be there any other day, but we are not able to be there on the 22nd.
Thank you. We are talking about the 24th, not, okay. Let's do this. Since we have requested a deferral on our side for 2 weeks, the developer, would you like 2 weeks or would you like 1 month? As soon as possible. Okay. So on your, the last speaker, if you would drop your contact information with Ms. Dybel, we can be in contact over the next 2 weeks, and we will have this, this deferral discussed on the next mayor and council meeting on June 24th. Bear with me, we've got some things going here. Okay, back to Ms. Dybel. Do we have a comment from Ms. Dybel on this?
Based on all the comments that we've just heard and the comments from the public, and we know the applicant's been working on it. However, if we're going to revise a plan, we have to have that plan ready by Friday of this week. Basically, it has to be in the office, submitted here 12 days in advance of the meeting. So the 24th of June, 12 days in advance of that meeting is, well, today. So I don't think that's going to be possible in order to figure out and work through all the different issues and concerns that have been just brought to light this afternoon, and us working with the applicant. I know it's one more month, it's July 8th, but it would give us the time to get what all the issues and concerns might be worked out and have a serious conversation with the applicant, get whatever's concerned out and done, and a revised plan, if needed, in the timely manner of 12 days in advance of that meeting.
So we're talking about July the 8th.
That's the next one after, because June 24th, we basically have to have it here now in order to rewrite the report. It has to be in by noon of next Monday, which technically means we have to have everything in by Friday of this week.
Gotcha. Okay. Does
All right.
council have any questions about what just transpired? All right. Councilmember Hall, take it away.
Okay. Motion to defer item number 4 to the July 8th Mayor and Council meeting, and it's item 2023-5005 and 2024-1822, 1293 Manhattan Drive, revision to the approved site plan.
All right. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Hills. All right. All those in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
before we advance to the next item, may I recuse myself?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda. Give her just a little bit longer. There we go. Next on the agenda is the Environmental Public Works. Councilmember Sells, would you please read the item?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Morflin. This is a request from Environmental Public Works that my friend Brian Watson is going to present for the approval for the mayor and council, for the mayor or city administrator to sign contracts with multiple consultants for the city's standby general engineering services.
Director Watson, hello.
Thank you, sir. Good evening again, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. The item before you tonight is to award standby general engineering service contracts to a number of consultants, which are all listed in your packet. We brought this forward to committee weeks ago. I can't remember that date. And just to remind you all, the purpose of these contracts are to have qualified consultants with experience in general engineering and design services, as well as a variety of additional professional services to assist the city of Roswell. We put this RFQ out early this year. We had 24 respondents, went through a very full and complete evaluation process, and the consultants that are listed here are being recommended for award.
Very nice. Okay. That it? Good deal. Bringing it to council, does council have any questions or comments for Director Watson?
As the most freshly baked city council member, getting to know Mr. Watson has been a real joy. And, you know, virtually every economic or development issue has an impact on Environmental Public Works. And I must say, as a citizen, we are well represented. They do a good job, and the RFQ that he has let is effective for us as a city, and I'm sure that we should have great confidence in him. He's a solid man. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments from council? All right. Turning it over to the public. Anybody from the public? Questions, comments for Director Watson or for this motion, for this item? All right. Bringing it back to council. Last chance. Questions, comments? All right. Councilmember Sells, do you have a motion?
I do have a motion. A motion to approve for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign contracts with multiple consultants for the city's standby general engineering services.
Excellent. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Johnson. All those in favor? Okay, passes unanimously with, we need to say she abstained? With Councilmember Beeson recusing, yes. Okay, very good. Next, we need to bring Councilmember Beeson back. Somebody. Bear with us as she comes back. And here we are. Ready? Okay. Next on the agenda is the Transportation Department. Councilmember Johnson, will you read the item?
Yes, item number 6, approval of a construction contract for the State Route 140 Landscape Mediums Project. Director Littlefield.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. The SR 140 Landscape Medians, a little bit of background. The median project will construct 3 landscape median islands on Holcomb Bridge Road near the following intersections: Holcomb Woods Parkway, Champions Green Parkway, and Steeplechase Drive. The medians will be 14 feet wide and range in length from 120 feet to 200 feet. The landscaping in the newly constructed medians will include shrubs, ferns, grasses, perennials, ground cover. That will be determined at a later date. The bid openings were conducted the actual same day as our committee item, which was May 28th, 2024. The lowest responsible bidder is SH Creel Contracting. Here's a map showing the locations in red. The yellow dots are future proposed median islands. We have reached out to our designer, VHB, to start designing those and also move forward with getting approval through GDOT. And if this item is approved tonight, we will approach our contractor to see if they would be amicable in actually moving forward with constructing the remainder of these 6. Financial impact, the funding in the amount of $494,700 is available in the fund. This contract is for $147,000, so we still have another $300 and almost $50,000 left to build the other 6 medians. So, staff does recommend approving. If approved, we'll award the contract to SH Creel Contracting. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Littlefield. Bringing it to council, does council have any questions or comments? Okay, Councilmember Hall.
Thank you. Could you bring the picture back with that has
The aerial?
that one? Yep. So what you are telling us and what we understood in the committee meeting is that all of these will hopefully get built with one fell swoop with the approval of GDOT and the contractor.
There is potential as long as the contractor is amicable to taking on the extra work. We get the design done and the approval from GDOT. So there's a little bit of the chain of events that have to occur, but there is a potential, and we're striving to achieve that, yes.
That's very exciting. And just my follow-up question is, when do these expect to be completed?
By the fall of this year, we should go, if we award tonight, then we will move forward with a kickoff meeting, and within probably about 120 days, they'll be constructed.
Terrific, thank you.
All right. Councilmember Sells.
So anything that slows down the Audubon of Holcomb Bridge East, I'm for. So I'm really excited about this. Thank you for moving this forward. Hopefully it will beautify as well as make the what's I think the 99-mile-an-hour speed limit was the highest we recorded, according to the chief. So maybe we'll get it down to 97 or something with these.
Yes, sir. We're
all right.
excited
Thank
about
you
it.
very much.
All right. Any other questions, comments from council? Councilmember Beeson.
I know we discussed in committee that we were unable to bioswale these designs because of GDOT requirements. If we were to request of the contractor to prioritize native plantings, would that impact the budget at all?
That is part of our requirement is the native plantings, and we'll run that by all of the electeds before we actually choose these specific plants.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Comments from council? All right. Open it up to the public. Comments, questions from the public related to this item? We have somebody? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Janet Russell, 260 Willow Springs Drive. I feel like I'm living in a time past. In the late 80s, I don't even think Mr. Davidson was here, you were in high school. We heard a similar project, Mr. Littlefield, for Holcomb Bridge Road from Highway 9 to Georgia 400. It was going to be a beautiful promenade with beautiful trees and beautiful plantings in the median. We never saw one thing except a median put in with crappy grass, and it's now an ashtray. People stop and they throw their cigarettes out there, and nothing has ever been improved since the late 80s. Now, I know that Roswell minutes are different than Earth minutes, and everything takes a long time, but I think 40 years is a long enough time to grow trees. And I'd like to see, since we're going to do all this beautification on the east side of Roswell, where they're always a pity party, that we actually improve the west side along with it so that it's a continuous look of prettiness. Because it's the same road and people are flying by, believe it or not, on this side of Highway 4, Georgia 400 as well. So I just want to remind, since none of you were here, but I was, Mr. Russell Carlisle sat where Mr. Sells is sitting, and he was a city councilman because I drove carpool with him. That's how I remember. We had kids in the same school. He promised us it was going to be a beautiful promenade, and we didn't get squat. So I would like to see the city make some kind of effort to improve this side of that highway when they're making the other side pretty as well.
Thank you.
I believe Mr. Johnson was in the back seat of that carpool. Yeah, dilly, you know, anything that makes for beautification of that stretch of road, I'm for, obviously. You know, I understand that people speed on the west side as well, but at the moment, we're talking about the east side, and I'm darn proud that we're putting these in. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other comments, questions from the public on this item? All right, back to council, questions, comments?
Good Lord, are we going to
All
fix
right.
this button?
Councilmember Johnson, do you have a motion?
My button broke again. There we go. All right, item number 6, this is a motion for approval of a construction contract for the SR 140 Landscape Medians project.
Okay, do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Beeson. All those in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the city attorney's report. Attorney Davidson, would you please read the item?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The first item I have is approval for the mayor and city council to amend the master services agreement with Sierra World LLC to include augmentation of operational staffing. As you know, a couple of weeks ago, the council approved master service agreement. What this amendment will do, it will clarify that it included operational staff augmentation as part of the economic development portion of the contract. And it will also address one of the items in the way that you interpret the contract to state that the more specific scope of work will take precedence over a very general term in the master services agreement. And those are the two main amendments to the contract.
Does council have any questions or comments related to the item? We're going to take it public, yes. Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Beeson.
So this was not a part of the original scope, as Attorney Davidson just mentioned, as part of the publicly bid RFQ. So therefore, I personally would prefer to keep the scope of work limited to the consultant, since I do worry about scope creep. I know it's been a criticism of past administrations to overutilize or be overly reliant upon consultants. In fact, I know several who share the dais with me shared those criticisms in the past. So therefore, I would prefer to rectify that concern and not contribute it to it. I'd rather keep the scope more limited. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Questions, comments from council? Okay. We're going to open it up to the public. Questions or comments from the public related to this item? Yes, sir.
Hello. Jason Yowell, 5010 Old Oak Trace. I think everybody knows me. I know everybody on council. To quote the great tennis player John McEnroe, you cannot be serious. Because this contract, the master contract with Sear, he's not qualified to do what you've hired him to do. He's getting a tremendous amount of money, and now you're going to have him staff it outside of his contract. That is just remarkable. Is he planning to spend any of the $2 million in his contract on actually doing what he's been hired to do? And so far, what I've seen of his work, and he's never been brought in front of the public for us to see this grand master plan that is about to come out of his mind. But from what I've seen, you've made some really bad real estate purchases that I've done ORRs for the materials that were supposedly used to make those purchases, and wow, it's really lacking. It's mind-boggling, in fact. And now, the next item that's coming up, $340,000 for somebody basically to be an employee of his, but paid by the city. That's like a 17% increase in his base contract.
Mr. Young, please stay on topic.
And where does it end?
Please stay on topic.
Well, the topic is you want to keep giving him money to hire more people to do his contract, but to be paid outside of his contract. That, talk about mission creep. Where does it end? How many people is he going to end up hiring with city money outside of his $2 million? Because that's what this first part of the two things tonight is, this augmentation. Where does it end? Is it limited? Is it specific? Or is just this chief operating officer for $340,000, which the last time I looked is about $140,000 more than the highest paid city employee right now? This guy isn't qualified, and it's just money, money, money going to him and nothing. When are we going to see this brilliance that we're paying for? This is $10 million over 5 years, plus the $340,000 a year for the next 3 years, plus however many other people he's going to ask you to hire to work for him on the city's dime. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the public related to this item? Okay. Bringing it back to council, last session of questions and comments. Councilmember Sells.
So I want to speak to this issue particularly. The master service agreement is specifically designed to be a terms and conditions, and the scopes of work, the specific scopes of work, are about particular things that will be done. So there would be more scopes of work under this contract, not less. This particular item is to include staff augmentation, and we'll talk about the specifics of that person and that particular position in just a moment. But the way we're structuring this contract is specifically to make sure that the scope is in tight, and it's clear what the objectives are, and the compensation follows those. So your $10 million a year, or $10 million over 5 years, it's up to, and it's all based on performance and specific scopes of work that will be performed. That's the way it's designed.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from council? We do need to make a motion.
You making it or me?
Do I have someone to make a motion on this
I'll
item?
make the motion.
Councilmember Sells.
So the motion is approval for the mayor and city council to amend the master services agreement with Sear Worldwide to include augmentation of operational staffing.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Hall. All those in favor? Three in favor. All those opposed? 1, 2. Motion passes 3-2. Thank you. Next item, City Attorney David Davidson, would you please read the following condition?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The next item I have is approval of a statement of work under the Master Services Agreement to provide for a chief operating officer in the amount not to exceed $340,000 annually for a period of 3 years. And with your permission, I would like to turn this one over to Councilmember Sells.
Thank you. Councilmember Sells, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Morflin. So the mayor and council engaged Sear Worldwide a year ago to explore securing a sports franchise and developing a cohesive real estate strategy. And more recently, to lead economic development in Roswell with a focus on bringing larger employees and professional jobs to Roswell. The goal was to move beyond what our friend Mr. Rollator said earlier, moving beyond opening vape shops and tattoo parlors in economically obsolete strip shopping centers. So the mandate for Sear, established by the mayor and council, can be summarized as follows. Number one, develop citywide interconnected strategies for real estate and economic development. Number two, identify and introduce world-class employers and economic partners to the city of Roswell. And number three, in that mandate that we gave him, was to build muscular processes inside of City Hall to keep the economic flywheel in motion once the efforts of number 1 and 2 begin to find their grip. So I'm going to name 2 results of numbers 1 and 2, which is developing the citywide interconnected strategies and introducing us to world-class employers. These 2 are already in the public conversation. There are several others that people on this side of the dais know about. So the first is the USL teams, the stadium and battery-type environment announced in March. So that's already in the public conversation. The second is the Green Street and Plum Street activation and parking strategy that is actively under discussion wherever Jerry Wood has an email correspondent. All on this side of the dais know other opportunities that are nearing public discussion. This scope of work, specifically the COO scope of work, is adding a resource to bring to begin to address number 3, which is building the muscular processes inside City Hall to keep the economic flywheel in motion. So turning to the substance of this statement of work, this scope of work as it's called here in the city, that's in your package, everybody can read it. Sear has recommended an individual to us who is uniquely important and has uniquely important skills, contacts, and experience for specific real estate and economic development opportunities that are actively in the pipeline. And that individual has significant large process improvement experience in government operations. And he's out of our price range. So the mayor's office and city administrator, the senior staff, have vetted this candidate and presented the matter to the council for discussion. The council delegated negotiating an agreement, but in addition to defining the services, the COO, and implementing of the COO, and implementing required number 3, which required certain economic and business provisions, and I want to talk about those specifically. The first was to create a contractual or outsourced relationship to first defray the cost of by structuring as a shared resource of a consultant. The second was to acquire the individual's time while we need it. So I liken this to the Braves bringing in Alejandro Pena before the 1991 World Series. He was gone by 1992. Roswell is unlikely to need the skills to oversee developing a stadium and a battery-style facility long-term. We need it now, not forever. So I was also instructed to avoid binding future councils. The second thing that the city council required of this process was to protect the city's interests by structuring the arrangement such that the individual reports to and is evaluated by the city administrator. The individual is terminable for cause immediately or for no cause with a 6-month severance. The individual may not indirectly or directly request, authorize, or expand the scope of Sear's work. The individual's work is work made for hire. That's important. That means that the intellectual property is the property of Roswell. Any intellectual property that this individual provides is the property of Roswell. And the statement provides robust competitive restrictions, such as no compete, non-circ, for some of these specific lightning strike opportunities that we don't want other cities to pursue. I believe this statement of work fulfills the instructions from Mayor and Council. With that, I yield back to you, Mayor Pro Tem Morphlin, and we'll answer any questions that council or the public may have.
Thank you, Councilmember Sells. All right, Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilmember Sells, for that very detailed definition of what our intent is and what our plan is. Many of the public may know that I work in this arena. I work in the outsourcing arena, and at my firm, we have over 8,000 employees. Outsourcing is very common, especially at the COO, CFO level. It's become a really great way to tap into talent for organizations that may otherwise not be able to afford to do it. So when we talk about the compensation, that's the compensation that's the top line compensation. Typically, 25% is sort of the factor that's put on typical compensation when you add in all these benefits, the Social Security, Medicare taxes, and other taxes that are required to be paid. Anybody can, I mean, you can Google this and you can go out and look at salaries, and compensation of C-suite executives are, you know, somewhere north of $200,000. So this individual is actually priced very competitively for us based on what the market brings. And this individual has a very, very specific talent base that we need in Roswell. Part of that is the organizational help that we need with our silos, as was demonstrated here and commented on by my colleague, Councilmember Beeson. Second time in weeks. It's not a good look for Roswell, and it's not where we want to be. We need to be better, and we need the help to get there. So just wanted to add those few notes.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, comments? Councilmember Johnson.
I wanted to add, I've had a lot of concerns about this contract, and, you know, is it even ethical? And, you know, Councilman Sales, I think, has done a great job with the master service agreement and working that out. And that's probably going to be the most open, you know, contract we have in the city. When it, not probably, it will be, when the scope of works and we start, you know, paying invoices, those will be public. Am I correct?
That is correct.
I sent the master service agreement and the COO contract to Joe Cusack, who is the Deputy Director and General Counsel of the State Ethics Commission. And he said, I've reviewed the contract from an ethics conflict of interest perspective. I believe it meets what is trying to be accomplished. I don't see any issue in hiring the COO as a contractor/vendor. From reading the contract, it looks like the COO will be reporting within the city hierarchy and also have oversight from the mayor and council if any conflicts do arise. I believe these oversight provisions provide proper ethical supervision to this position. So I say that to say I'm not overly comfortable with hiring them as a consultant, and I'll reserve that for when my time comes to vote. But Councilman Sells has done an excellent job on working through this to make sure that our city is protected ethically with this contract.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to the council. Questions, comments? Councilmember Beeson.
As well as Councilmember Johnson, I wanted to add that I do appreciate Councilmember Sells for his efforts and his expertise that he brought to this situation to review and improve the contract in order to make sure that it was beneficial to the city. That is very much his bread and butter, and his talents were showcased throughout the entire process. Unrelated to what Councilmember Sells was able to contribute to this contract and the discussion, I have several outstanding concerns which cannot be addressed contractually, so this is not the onus of Councilmember Sells. First of which, while I believe the candidate in question to be extremely competent, and I do not have doubts in their individual abilities, I would much prefer for the city's chief operating officer, again, that's the second highest person within our city government, to be a city employee who is 100% obligated to city priorities and does not share 25% of their time with an outside entity or consulting. I also have concerns that $340,000 is exceedingly high. Not only do I find this amount to be fiscally irresponsible, I believe that would make this position the highest paid municipal employee within the metro region. It's higher than even the general manager of Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, the world's busiest airport. And as part of that $340,000, I understand Councilmember Hall mentioning that it is part of this person's benefits package, the auxiliary payments that would not just be your standard salary, 401k. If that is the case, which it is, I don't understand why that is the city's financial obligation if they are structuring this contract to be a part of SEER. I thought that was supposed to be the benefit of making them a consultant as opposed to a full-time hire. In this case, I believe the benefits of using an outside consultant or a contractor to be negated, where we're still paying the benefits of this contractor and we don't have the full obligation as a W-2 employee. And lastly, the COO has an inherent position of power over all but one of the city staff. And I realize that Councilmember Sells has added some significant language to the contract in order to mitigate this concern and conflict of interest. I also realize that Councilmember Johnson has submitted this to the state ethics, highest entity ethics organization to review this. But as we just mentioned, it's a modification of an existing $2 million contract. So not only would this person be working for the entity under that $2 million contract, they would be overseeing staff who would be therefore initiating task orders, executing task orders as part of that contract that we just amended. And to be clear, I do not believe that this candidate would abuse their power intentionally, but the way that this hire would be fundamentally operating within the organization begs several questions for me as to how we could engage preventative firewalls to ensure that without a doubt there will be no potential for conflicts of interest at any time during the duration of the contract, and therefore I'll be voting no.
Thank you.
Let me address a
Councilmember
couple of
Sills.
those if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
So the first is, I want to read specifically what we have bound the individual to, and that is, first, this individual can only be billed through this statement of work. In other words, whatever work he does with SEER or anyone else, nothing can be billed to the city. And furthermore, neither directly or indirectly can he bind, approve, request any services from SEER. All of those have to go through staff, specifically Mr. Knighton, but any others have to go specifically through staff, not through him. So he cannot directly or indirectly approve, authorize, or request the payment of or performance of anything by SEER. And the other thing I'd say is that, you know, when we talk about, we are whale hunting for some of these things. And we absolutely would be foolish. So my background is private equity. You bring in people for specific functions for a period of time that you need, and they're specialists in that. And then this is directly written, specifically written, that when that time is up, this man's not going to retire from the city of Roswell. He's here for a particular purpose for projects that we're currently actively pursuing and working on. That's really what the focus of this, from my perspective, is. And I'm trying to make these statements of work very, very specific so that I know exactly how it's compensated and how the city benefits. And one of those is, as Councilmember Hall said, the ability for someone to drive the process inside this building is part of that. The ability to expand the way we evaluate projects so that before they come to council, we know exactly what's in it for Roswell and what it's going to cost Roswell. That's what I'm all about. That's why I say I'm in closing mode. I want to see some of these deals close, and I want to see us executing on them for the benefit of Roswell as quickly as possible, and that's why I'm voting yes on this.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from council? Got it? Oh, which way? Councilmember Beeson.
It was a quick response to Councilmember Sells, in that he is very correct that there is very explicit language within the contract that this individual cannot approve, authorize, or request any services by SEER directly. My concern... Or indirectly. And again, not to imply that this person would do this intentionally, but they would serve as the inherent supervisor, as the second highest position within the organization as COO. I would oversee the staff who will be requesting those services. And those are people that they not only manage, but they would approve their promotions, their pay increases, and they perform annual reviews for those individuals. That's what I mean by the position of power over the employees who would be servicing or requesting the services of that contract.
Thank you. Questions, comments, any further? All right. Open it up to the public for this agenda item. Yes, ma'am. Hello. Name and address?
My name is Kat Plant, and I live at 100 Lake Pines Court.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I have heard so much about SEER and Peter Sorkoff, and it has all been just glowing things. Like, I feel like this is the Wizard of Oz. He can do no wrong. He does wonderful things. I was told that $2 million was a steal. Literally, that was a quote. $2 million is a steal for this, for having this company working with the city. I've never heard him say anything. I've never heard any presentation from SEER or Mr. Sorkoff or anything like that. I've just heard everybody say how brilliant he is. What I've pieced together is that we're getting a soccer stadium for a league that is not doing great. Many of the stadiums are not doing great. They are very expensive and aren't bringing anything in for the cities that they're in. But they cost a lot in building materials and whatnot, and $2 million a year is really a lot of money. I mean, maybe not to everybody else, but it is to me. I think it's insane that we're talking about adding another $340,000 a year on top of that. That makes no sense to me. I do appreciate that you said that everything's gonna be, they're not gonna have direct or indirect, you know, they can't just make things happen that are gonna promote SEER or whatever. But like Councilmember Beeson said, if he's the second at the top, we know that, or I can tell from watching things, that people do what the mayor wants. People at City Hall do what the mayor wants. Not all the time, but most of the time. And clearly the mayor wants this. And so I have a hard time believing that the staff and department people are gonna ruffle too many feathers if this is what this brilliant man that works for this brilliant wizard, if what he says this is what it should be, then maybe that's what they should go along with. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. It seems like this city keeps adding more and more upper roles with really big price tags, and I don't know how many economic development positions we are gonna keep adding. We can spend ourselves into a pit. That doesn't mean that we're gonna like have great economic development. Anyways, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else from the public? Janet and Jason. Okay, so let's, Ms. Russell.
Well, when I noticed $340,000 annually for a period of 3 years, I thought surely that's a typographical error and someone doesn't know how to write a sentence correctly. It's a good thing Sear didn't find this guy and he said it was $500,000 a year, because he's worth every penny. I don't know who this consultant is who's going to be a COO. We had a COO, Mr. Reinhardt. What did he get paid? Anybody know? He didn't get paid $340,000. I know that for sure. It's a part-time job. I think they call that a side gig now, don't they? So he's going to work part-time for the city and get $340,000 a year, so $1 million in 3 years. I'm sorry, but he better be really, 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 really fabulous and know every single person on planet Earth, because that is an outrageous amount of money. That is 6 firemen or 6 full-time police officers. That's more than Mr. Knighton makes, by a lot. That's more than the head of HR makes. That's more than our fire chief makes, more than our police chief makes. No. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid, guys. I'm sure we can find someone else at half the price, and he, or better yet, very often the best man for the job is a woman. Why don't you take a look?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Jason Yowell here again. Well, it sounds like this guy is just an incredible person. So how about we hire him and we fire Sierra World and save ourselves $2 million a year? Then the guy is a bargain at $340,000. But since Alan mentioned Green Street, I did an ORR about the selection process for the parking garage, which, by the way, is further from the heart of Canton Street than the City Hall parking lot that doesn't seem to be adequate. So first of all, you've overpaid for the land there. Then you bought land.
Yeah.
No, he opened it up because he talked about Green Street, so I'm going to Green Street. And now you've taken through eminent domain a historical building that you want to tear down for no other purpose than to make the parking garage the single most visible building in the entirety of the historic district. As you drive through, you can't miss it. That's why you got to tear the building down. So this is Sear. Wow. There were no comparison sites. The only thing I got in my ORR was a schedule of to weigh the merits of each site, but there were no other sites considered. I said, are you sure? Before I tell people this, I want to make sure that this is all the material you have. That was it. Why that site? It doesn't meet all those criteria that were laid out in this one sheet last year. Other sites that certainly made more sense, one of which we gave away for $150,000 to the hotel group. Why weren't we taking that back? Why weren't we using eminent domain to take that vacant land? It's madness. It makes no sense. And this is the brilliance of Mr. Sear. Is a very curious, or not Mr. Sarkoff, the Sear World guy. It's kind of an interesting approach to economic development. Let's buy an existing business, put it out of business, forego the real estate taxes and the sales taxes that the place generates, and put in a government facility. Not the facility we thought we were going to get, where we were going to include the fire department, to the shooting range. You paid $3 million for it. It's going to cost another $3 million to renovate. And at the end of the day, you're going to have 6,500 square feet. You're paying almost $1,400 a square foot. Who does that? Oh, the city of Roswell. When you've got all this other land you could have put it on, it would have cost less. Now, you passed on doing it Crabapple Middle, which you overpaid for because, hey, if the Crabapple Middle needs $50 million worth of work, how come it wasn't a topic of discussion when you were buying it from Fulton County? You know, I don't know if you people realize Fulton County gave all their parks and fire stations to the new cities. Now, yes, the Board of Ed, it's a different thing, but they couldn't, you were the only buyer. They couldn't sell it to anybody else because of the zoning. You shouldn't have paid $6 million for that property. You should have had them give it to you. You should have said, look, the building costs so much to renovate, you can't do anything else with it, you keep it. But we can take it off your hands, and we're happy to do that. Why didn't we do that? Oh, because we've got a $2 million a year consultant that doesn't know how to buy real estate, doesn't know how to site things, has no idea what anything costs because he's never developed property, he's never designed anything, he's a marketing guy. You hired a marketing guy, you hired a phony, a fake, to do economic development that doesn't know the first thing about it. His biggest contract prior to the city of Roswell was $400,000. Wow. It's inconceivable. It's just, I don't know what goes on in this building. But stop spending money and saying, look at us, we're getting things done, we're checking our list. It's easy to look like you're doing things when you're spending millions and millions of dollars irresponsibly. You're not really doing anything, you're just spending money.
Thank you, Mr. Yo.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the community? Questions, comments about this item? Okay, back to council. Last chance, questions? Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Hills.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Morthland. I actually like checking boxes, especially when they're goal-driven. If you'll recall, when Mayor Wilson, Councilmember Morthland, and I came into office and joined Councilmember Hall and Palermo, we had a 100-day goal. We didn't get them all in 100 days, but we did about 3 months following that. We completed the list. And that wasn't to show off or to flex. It was to say that we had gotten together and made a decision that we're going to move the city forward. I would submit there are people here tonight and in our city that just want to jam things up, maybe because they weren't part of that process. I got to tell you, it's pretty crazy to think one of the reasons I ran was I was frustrated because we had people sitting up here doing things that were better than the alternative of leaving it just the same. And that was a one-off and a way to just talk about checking a box. Look, we put in a gas station. Look, we did approve a vape shop. Look, we put in another spa. That was going on. It's frustrating to me, east and west. I used to drive to see my husband at work in Johns Creek, and I would pass through the east corridor of Roswell, and I'd see things shut down over and over again. We moved here in 2002. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's great. That's closed. And I was thinking to myself, something really good is going in there. And it wasn't. And guess what? Nobody sitting up here at the time was doing a damn thing about it. Not one thing. They're sitting around waving, having beers on Canton Street and not getting to work. This is one of the most hardworking teams I've ever seen. I mean, I'm the only one that's not the breadwinner sitting up here. These folks are kicking ass and taking names. I'm sick of the rhetoric of we don't hire local. We don't listen to the constituents. We aren't getting our way. Well, we did hire local. Sear is located here in Roswell, and this gentleman may not have a resume that suits some of the people that are listening, but it suits what we need with his contact base and his resources. And by resources, I mean negotiating skills and relationships with people across this continent. It's pretty unbelievable. And no, sir, we can't tell everybody every single thing all the time. We can't remain competitive. I'm also sick of hearing about Johns Creek. I'm sick of hearing about Woodstock. I'm sick of hearing about Alpharetta. Lee Hills don't want to be any of that in Roswell. I want to maintain our historic aspect, the feel of a small town, although we're great big. I want to maintain all that. I absolutely do. But I don't want to sit here and be Mayberry with Barney Fife and issue Chief Conroy one bullet for his pocket. We're loading an arsenal here of people that are talented. I really appreciate Director Littlefield with transportation telling me we had somebody going after us. You need to have an engineer for bridges here. You need to hire. And I sat with Director Littlefield and he said, that's a great idea if we had bridges going off every other year, but we don't. And just tonight, I want to get the verbiage right, just tonight we have approved to sign contracts with multiple consultants for the city's standby general engineering services because we don't need all of these folks all the time. We don't need this CEO skill set forever. But what I promise you is we've got some incredible things going off behind the scenes that you're going to start to see. And I know people have made promises and go ahead and destroy me. I don't care. I don't read half the junk that's on Bookface. I don't care what's being said. You're going to be really amazed. And I want our residents and our visitors to be excited to come to the city of Roswell and go, wow, I never thought that would happen. This place is a dump. That's what I hear from people. They're like, I don't understand it. You've got a beautiful city, you've got a downtown, you've got places for industry, for growth, and you guys can't get a damn thing done. And I would submit that there are people in this city that would rather clog this city up and throw their love of Roswell right in the crapper just to slow this administration down. And I don't give one hoot, much less two hoots, if you like Old Lee Hills or not. I don't. I love Roswell. I want you to be happy in Roswell, whoever is listening to this, and those that aren't, because they're comfortable with what we're doing. We're going to be held accountable. The ballot comes around every couple of years, so we will be held accountable. But I want you to know we are dedicated to making a difference in this city and not destroying it. And there is money being spent. Yes, it's unprecedented. It should have been done a hell of a long time ago. The fact that these folks that were elected up here, you all, including me, were not paying attention and saying, hey, what's that going to be? What's going in there? I just thought, you know what? We got them elected. Surely they're looking after little old me while I'm raising kids. Well, they've flown the coop now, and I'm on deck, and I'm paying attention. And I'm grateful for the talent we've got up here. I'm just a lowly art major, you know? But I know people, and I know crap when I smell it. And that's what I read on Bookface and all this other stuff. When people send me screenshots, I'm like, oh, save it. I just can't listen to that. We got work to do. So I want you to know you have my word that I will continue to work hard. And yeah, preserving the history of Roswell, and some things aren't worth preserving. I just want you to know that we have done our due diligence, and if this old boy didn't cut in the mustard, he's out. I'm not pointing to Alan. I'm talking hypothetically here, but this is a big deal. And it's a big deal whether you like us individually or not. It's a big deal for the future of this city, the value of your property, the way that our businesses do business here in the city of Roswell. This is huge, and it is our turn, and that's not rah, rah, rah. It's high time we get after it and make a difference, put ourselves back on the map in first place like we belong, while working with our sister cities and our sister counties. I mean, we're cooperating with people well outside of our property boundaries right now for the better of the people here in this city. And that's east, west, north, and south. And I'm committed to doing it, and I'm probably going to be here 10 more years, so get used to my mug. My hair will be a little more white when I go out, but it'll be worth it for every single time that we've had to go to bat, taking risks that no one was willing to take. Calculated risks up here with brilliant minds that are not always in agreement, but combing over these contracts, these scope of work, statement of work, and all the other things that go into hiring somebody. I mean, this is a risk for us, but it is a calculated risk. And I just want you to know we take this seriously, whether you think we do or not. And I'm looking forward to the great things that are coming. You're going to see a lot before we strike midnight on December 1st, or December 31st. There's going to be a lot to see and a lot to behold, and I'm very much looking forward to celebrating that with our residents, with our visitors, with some of your children that'll end up moving here. And yes, your kids, if they work hard, can buy a house in Roswell eventually. I couldn't afford one for 5 whole years before we bought in Roswell. So it is doable to be able to enjoy this city. So with that, back to you, sir, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Councilmember Sells.
Remind me of I believe that the shooting range was closing. Is that a correct statement? It was not continuing as a business.
I believe it was being offered up for sale, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Johnson, yes, sir.
Alan, can you explain, or Councilman Sells, sorry. Yeah, can you explain, is this $340,000 going under the $2 million or on top of the $2 million?
But I believe it. You go ahead, David.
This is part of the $2 million. Each one of the scope of works is under the $2 million threshold.
For the rest of this year, he'll have 1.7 million-ish.
There's a scope of work number one, and then this is scope of work number two. So all of those will be under the $2 million, yes.
And to be clear, so we are identifying specific things we want done and things we want closed, ideas we want completely vetted and brought to us, ready to act on and break ground and get going. And so those are going to be the scopes of work. That's what we're doing here. We're managing this, and I want to point out something that Councilmember Johnson mentioned earlier. So when we pass the MSA, every 3 months, there's going to be a complete list of every check to SEER, publicly available for your review. And that's part of the deal. We want to make sure this is completely clear and transparent. And is it a lot of money? It is. Are we managing it well? You're damn right we are. Because we're making sure that things are going to be accomplished in light of that spending, because we're shooting at big projects, and that's why we're doing this.
Okay. Any other last-minute comments, questions? Once, twice? Okay. So we're going to go back to Councilmember Sells. Do you have a motion?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I make a motion that we approve a statement of work under the Master Services Agreement to provide the Chief Operating Officer in an amount not to exceed $340,000 annually for a period of 3 years.
Second.
Got a second. Councilmember Hills. All right. All those in favor? 2, 3. All those opposed? 1. Abstention? 1 abstention. Okay, so motion passes 3-1 with 1 abstention, correct? Okay. All right. Lastly, after such a wonderful conversation, we have Mr. Davidson. Would you read the last item under the city attorney's report?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The final item I have is a recommendation for closure to discuss personnel, litigation, and real estate.
All right. Do we have a motion for closure? Motion by Councilmember Johnson, second by Councilmember Hills. All those in favor for closure? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Passes unanimously. We are off to closure. Thank you so much.